The story begins with a beautiful girl named Seion, dressed in rags, crying, and unable to walk. A car stops in front of her, and the driver, though unknown to her, takes her in and drives away. In another scene, a boxing coach named Chul arrives at a dinner organized by the Boxing Federation. He's holding a second-place championship trophy cup, visibly angry, and refuses to have dinner with them. He informs the Federation president that he's resigning from the sport because they accepted bribes to make his boxers lose. The vice manager gets angry at him, calls him a failure, and tries to grab and push him out, but Chul knocks him down with a single blow. The vice manager then decides to fire him. Later, we see Chul in his car, on the phone with his sister. She blames him for what he did to the vice manager, and we learn that because of the incident, he won't be able to work in boxing anywhere again. He's going to work as a physical education teacher at a girls' school. His sister pleads with him not to cause any trouble at his new job. Chul reassures her, saying he's almost arrived in the village. However, his car then breaks down, forcing him to call a tow truck. While waiting, he coincidentally sees a notice board with a missing persons poster for a girl named Seion, the same girl from the beginning of the film. The tow truck arrives and takes his car, and Chul rides in the cab to get into town. He's surprised by how quiet the area is. The driver doesn't even respond when he talks. Once he arrives, he calls his sister to reassure her he's made it. He then sees a girl named Jin arguing with a group of girls who are tearing down the missing poster she put up for her friend Seion. Chul intervenes, trying to stand between them to prevent a fight, but they embarrass him with their words, so he leaves. At that moment, an officer named Seion appears, greets Chul, and we learn Chul trained under him at the gym 3 years ago. Jin then goes to Seon's grandmother's house to check on her and give her medication. The grandmother is sad because there's still no news about Seion. We learn Seion lived with her grandmother after her parents died in a car accident. Jin reassures the grandmother, telling her she filed a police report, and the police will surely find her. Jin goes into Seon's room and sees a painting Seion made, full of butterflies, which brings back memories of them talking and laughing together, both wearing butterfly bracelets. Later, Jin sees the logo of the company Seion worked for and decides to go there to look for her. Jin leaves the grandmother's house at night to go there. A mysterious person is seen following and watching her. As she boards a bus, she sees the person standing outside watching. The next day, Chul goes to the school where he'll work. The principal introduces him as the new PE teacher, also responsible for collecting late tuition fees from students. After the meeting, he's taken to the teacher's room for introductions. He gets a list of students who haven't paid. He then meets the supervisor, who tells him he'll find all the girls in the cafeteria and can talk to them about the fees there. Chul goes to the cafeteria, but the girls pay him no attention and laugh at him because he looks more like a wrestler than a teacher. Chul doesn't know how to handle them and fails to convince anyone to pay. He then meets Kitae, the school owner, who welcomes him. We learn Kitae is wealthy and running for village mayor. While reviewing the list, Chul sees Jin's name among those who haven't paid. He goes to talk to her, asking for the fees and inquiring if she knows a student named Seion, who also hasn't paid for a year and owes a large sum, and whom he couldn't find. Jin says she'll pay next month and tells him Seion is her closest friend, missing for a month with no one knowing her whereabouts. She then leaves. The school principal summons Jin for putting up Seon's posters around the school, saying it's forbidden. Jin says she won't stop looking for her and leaves. She then jumps over the school fence, which Chul sees from a window, but doesn't intervene. After work, Chul heads home. Meanwhile, Jin tries to reach the place where Seion worked. Chul sees a street game where you can win prizes and plays it. Jin sees him from afar and laughs at him. Continuing her search, Chul is happy with the prize he won. He then sees Kitae, the school owner, campaigning and speaking to people to get elected. A man steps forward and keeps calling him a liar, but security takes him away. Chul notices Jin is in the same area and decides to go after her to bring her back to school. He finds her entering a suspicious-looking place. Jin enters because Seion worked there before, hoping someone might know her whereabouts. Upon entering, she finds no one and searches the rooms. The gang leader, named Kang, yells at her. Jin asks about Seion. One of his men shows a photo, calling her Seion. Jin realizes they know her by that name and asks where she is, but they want to kick her out. At that moment, Chul enters the place, calling for Jin, wanting her to return to school. Jin runs from him to search for Seion inside. Chul chases her and finds men holding her, but they are afraid of him. Chul takes Jin out and tells her she can't come to a place like this alone. He asks her to tell him if she has a problem, but Jin knows he won't help her like everyone else. Chul doesn't understand what she means. A girl then exits the place, and Jin asks her about Seion, but the girl says she doesn't know anything, and leaves. Chul then takes Jin to drop her off. On the way, she asks him if the girl they stopped seemed like she really knew something. Chul asks what she's looking for, and upon learning it's Seion, he tells her it's very dangerous for her to search and that it's the police's job, not hers. Jin tells him no one is looking for her. Chul says he has a friend who is an officer in the village and will ask him to look into the case. After dropping her off near her home, Jin walks through a tunnel but notices a car driving beside her. Suddenly, the car stops. Jin gets scared and thinks to call someone but can't find her phone. Suddenly, someone gets out of the car, runs after her, grabs her, and gags her. At that moment, Chul finds her phone and returns to give it to her. He sees Jin on the ground and, upon seeing the criminal, the man runs away quickly. Chul quickly takes her to the hospital. 2 officers arrive as Chul reports an attempted kidnapping. Jin tells them the man who tried to kidnap her might be the one who kidnapped her friend Seion. They tell her they are still investigating and leave. Chul steps outside with his officer friend and asks why no one is investigating the crimes happening in the village. His friend explains it's election season for village mayor, and they don't want any problems until it's over. Chul asks for details about the case, but the officer tells him no missing persons report was ever filed for Seion because many girls run away from home at that age, and no family member filed a report. Chul then decides to look into the matter as he promised Jin. The next day, he visits Seon's grandmother and asks her to grant him power of attorney to follow the case, as she is elderly and can't move around. She agrees and gives him the power. Chul then goes to file a missing persons report for Seion, but the officer tells him it's a sensitive time and difficult to file now, apologizing for not being able to help. Chul gets angry and accuses him of negligence. Chul goes to school, of course arriving late. He goes to the student affairs officer and asks if Seion ever complained about anything before she disappeared, or if there was any incident involving Jin. The teacher tells him that's her job, and girls that age do many things behind their parents' backs. She hints that Seion might have run away and nothing happened to her. Chul gets angry at her words. At that moment, the school counselor arrives and tells Chul to ignore anything related to Jin because she's a troublemaker. Chul then meets Jin and tells her he can't find out anything about Seion. He asks if Seion was in a relationship before she disappeared. Jin gets angry at him and tells him if he wants to ignore the case, just say so and don't spread rumors like everyone else. She leaves him and goes to sit alone on the playground. Another teacher named Shin talks to her and asks if something is bothering her. Jin proceeds to tell him everything that happened. Chul looks for Jin and finds her with Shin. At the same time, he notices smoke coming from the girls' bathroom. He goes and tells the girls to come out with the cigarettes they're smoking. The girls come out and tell him he can't prove anything because they don't have the cigarettes. Chul enters the bathroom they were in and, by chance, finds a camera installed there. He takes it. Chul wants to find out who did it, but the principal calls him at that moment and scolds him when he finds out Chul filed a missing persons report for Seion, threatening him because it will affect his chances of getting a permanent position at the school. Chul decides not to mention the camera he found and keeps reviewing its recordings until he sees who placed it and learns that the teacher, Shin, from the school, installed the camera. The next day, Chul goes to school and keeps looking for Shin's device while he's absent. He finds chats between Shin and Jin arranging to meet outside school. At the same time, he finds chats between Shin and someone else informing him he's decided to kidnap Jin today. Chul leaves the school and calls Jin, but she doesn't answer. Still upset from their last conversation, she then gets in the car with Shin. Chul keeps calling her until she finally answers while in the car with Shin. Chul tells Jin that Shin is a pervert and not to ride with him. He informs her he found him installing a camera in the girl's bathroom and planning to kidnap her today, meaning he's the one who kidnapped Seion. Jin notices at that moment that Seon's pendant, belonging to her missing friend, is with him. Chul asks about her location, but she doesn't respond. He then understands she's in the car with Shin and tells her to send him her location, and he'll come to her. She hangs up. Jin sees a police car ahead and thinks about getting out and running, but Shin fastens her seatbelt. Jin asks Shin where they're going, and he tells her he forgot some things at home, and they'll go get them and return. Jin texts Chul everything, and then asks Shin if Seion gave him the pendant. Shin panics, and says she gave it to him as a gift. Jin keeps asking about the last time he saw Seion, and if he met her the day she disappeared. Shin gets very angry at her and hits her in the face, knocking her unconscious. When Jin wakes up, she finds herself tied up on the floor in Shin's house. Shin goes to her, helps her up, and gets her cream for the wound on her face. Jin notices he has many syringes, and sees Seon's phone in the closet, confirming he kidnapped her. At that moment, Chul manages to reach the house. He jumps over the fence and tries to open the door. Shin hears his voice and decides to hide Jin, dragging her across the floor. Chul sees her lying on the floor, breaks down the door, enters, hits Shin, and knocks him to the ground. A little later, Shin wakes up tied up in his house and tries to trick Chul into not calling the police. Chul tries to get information from him about Seon's whereabouts and the reason he kidnapped Jin. Shin tells him that on the day Seion disappeared, he found her on the street after someone assaulted and hit her. Here we learn that the car from the beginning of the film is Shin's car. Someone keeps calling her, so she gets out of the car and tells Shin to leave, saying someone will come to get her. Shin leaves, but later worries about her and returns to get her, but he can't find her. He hears a sound from the public bathroom, goes to look, and finds her phone broken on the floor. Chul doesn't believe a word he says, and asks why he didn't report it to the police if he didn't do anything. Shin tells him he didn't want problems. Chul then asks if he was the one who tried to kidnap Jin the first time. Shin confirms he was with the principal that day, and they were together all night. The police arrive then, and Chul is shocked because he didn't call them. Jin tells him she's the one who reported it. Shin is arrested and taken to the station. Chul stays at the station following the case, and feels the police aren't doing anything. He then meets his officer friend and asks him to find out who the last person to call Seon's phone was. His friend gets scared and tells him that would be leaking evidence, but Chul pressures him, saying no one at the station is moving, and he's her teacher. He must look for her. His friend tells him he has to leave now for patrol duty and leaves. On the other side of the station, we see the officer continuing the interrogation with Shin. The officer then calls the gang leader, Kong, and informs him that Chul is investigating the case and managed to get evidence, meaning they can't cover up the case any longer while Chul is after them. After hanging up, Kong goes to meet Kite, and we learn he's one of his men. Kite hits him with a pen for letting Shin get arrested because it could affect his election success rate. Later, news of teacher Shin's arrest spreads, and the whole school finds out. Chul learns Jin is the one who spread the news to make Seon's case a public issue. He goes to her and scolds her for what she did, telling her it will put her in danger. Jin tells him Seion was kidnapped without doing anything, and even if what he says happens, she's willing to do anything for Seion to return. The principal then summons Chul and tells him he's the cause of everything happening, and what he's doing has damaged the school's reputation. He asks him to remove himself from everything and let the police handle it, giving him a final warning before firing him. At that moment, his officer friend calls and tells him to come to an address he'll send him. Chul goes to the address and learns they found Seon's body in the river. Jin runs over and is devastated when she learns Seon is dead. Chul tries to calm her and takes her home. They learn the grandmother found out about Seon's death and was taken to the hospital, so they go to see her. On the other side, Chul's friend learns the police want to cover up Seon's case and doesn't know why. He decides to investigate and goes to the station to look for Seon's phone. After learning Officer Seong didn't submit it into evidence, he sees Seong on the cameras and then finds the phone, takes it, and finds out who she last called. He calls Chul and tells him the last number Seon called. But suddenly, someone hits him on the head. Chul manages to find out the number is registered to the suspicious place. He goes there, takes one of the girls working there, and questions her for any information about Seon since she was killed. The girl tells him Seon worked with them, and one day they had a job at Kitai's house. Seion was forced into the job because of her grandmother's medical bills and had agreed to just sing. When she met Kitai, she asked to leave because her grandmother was sick and told him she was a high school student so he would protect her from the boss who was harassing her. Kitai then went to argue with Kang for bringing a high school girl to the house. Suddenly, they find out Seion hit the man harassing her and ran away after he assaulted her. Kang calls her at that moment and tells her to get out of Shin's car and he'll come get her. We then learn that Kang killed her on Kitai's orders, and they covered everything up for the elections and Kitai's reputation. At that moment, Kitai passes by with his men, and the girl gets scared and runs away. Chul goes to Kitai and accuses him of killing Seion. One of Kang's men tries to kick him out, and when Chul resists, another hits him on the head. Chul fights them one by one, knocking them all to the ground. None of them can stand against him. Kang then pulls out a knife and tries to kill him with it, but Chul dodges his strikes, knocks the knife from his hand, and delivers a powerful blow that knocks him unconscious. At the same time, we see Jin in the school bathroom. Suddenly, someone with a covered face enters, gags her, and kidnaps her. We return to Chul, who is on top of Kang, trying to find out what he did to Seion. Kang tells him that on the day of the incident, he went to meet her at the agreed location, kept calling her, and she didn't answer. He entered the bathroom to check, and found someone with a covered face killing her. When he focused on the face, he saw it was teacher Shin. We discover that Shin kidnapped Jin, and also that Shin is Kitai's son, and the one who killed Seion. So, he is the one who killed Seion and kidnapped Jin. Currently, Chul gets in his car and drives off. His officer friend calls him on the way and tells him the evidence was stolen from him, and Shin was released because there's no evidence. Chul worries Shin will do something to Jin. We learn Shin did kidnap Jin. When Jin wakes up, Shin tells her everything that happened on the day of the incident. We learn that on the day of the incident, he went to Seion in the bathroom, talked to her, and said he would protect her, and that he wasn't cruel like his father, but she was scared and tried to run away from him. After that, he only regained consciousness after finishing off Seion. His father arrived at that moment, took Seon's phone, broke it, and kept hitting Shin for what he did, not for Seon's sake, but because it would affect the elections he's running in. Since then, Shin decided to do what he wanted, especially if it would hurt his father. At that moment, Shin finds someone trying to enter the room, so he hits Jin to knock her out and quickly hides her in the closet. We see that Kitae, his father, is the one who entered. On the other side, Chul arrives at Jin's house and manages to get Shin's home address from there and heads over. We return to Shin, whose father entered the room and keeps yelling at him for everything that happened. Shin reminds him of the day of the incident and asks why he blames him for Seon's death when he's the one who killed her. We return to the day of the incident and learn that Seon was still alive, but Kitae decided to kill her so she wouldn't tell anyone the truth. He strangles her with a trash bag until she dies. We return to the present. Kitae gets angry and keeps hitting Shin, telling him he did it for him. Something falls in the closet at that moment. Kitae goes to the closet to see who's inside, but he gets a call and leaves the room, telling Shin to prepare himself because he's sending him to America, and then exits. At the same time, Chul arrives at the location. We see Shin trying to get Jin out of the closet. She comes out, sprays something in his eyes, and tries to escape but finds all doors locked, so she hides under a table. Shin sees her, wrecks the place, and goes after her. Just as he reaches her, we see Chul managing to enter the house and hearing the crashing sound from the room under the stairs. He tries to open the door at the same time Shin overturns the table. Jin runs out, but glass shards pierce her leg, and she falls to the ground, with glass entering her neck, and she loses consciousness. Chul manages to break down the door, enters, finds Jin on the ground unconscious, sees the glass in her neck, removes it, and covers her neck with a cloth to stop the bleeding. Suddenly, Shin attacks him and stabs him in the side with a knife, but Chul manages to get up. Shin tries to escape, but Chul grabs him, hits him, and knocks him to the ground. Shin then confesses to the crime, begging to be let go, and promising not to do anything. Chul decides to let him go to save Jin, but Shin tries to attack him again. Chul manages to dodge his strikes, gets up, and delivers one final blow that finishes him off. He then leaves him, picks up Jin to rush her to the hospital, takes her in his car, and drives at breakneck speed to save her before she dies. At that time, we see Kitae waiting for the election results. The results come out, and Kitae wins. His colleagues congratulate him on his victory. On the other side, Chul drives fast to save Jin, affected and bleeding from the wound Shin inflicted on his side. Jin regains consciousness and tells him Kitae is the one who killed Seion. They arrive at the hospital, and Chul learns Kitae won the election. He leaves Jin, exits the hospital, and goes to where Kitae is. He drives his car into the place, causing a collision between them. Chul then goes to him and hits him. The police arrive at that moment. The next day, we learn all of Kitae's crimes were exposed, and he was removed from his position a few hours later. Chul decides to leave the village and return to his hometown. He bids farewell to his officer friend, then goes to Jin at the hospital to check on her, but she's still asleep. He leaves, gets in his car, and drives off. Jin then wakes up and finds beside her the prize toy Chul won and left for her as a keepsake, and the film ends.